is one definite similarity between you and us. We are obsessed with fantasy football. We are so glad to have you with us. I'm Lauren Shehadi. He's Jamey Eisenberg. This is the first of several mock drafts before training camp, and we're back to seeing running backs taken first, number 1 AP, and then Turner 2. Forte taken 3rd. Is this the way you would go, Jamey?
It's not. I think you see Matt Forte had a great season last year, comes into this year with a lot of positive outlooks when you talk about adding Jay Cutler to that offense and you look at the way that Forte played last year. Obviously a tremendous season, was a good combo back, caught the ball really well out of the backfield, did very well at the goal line, scoring touchdowns. But I just think that you see Maurice Jones-Drew, the way that he has played the last couple of years in a tandem situation. Now he comes into his own as the first starting running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars now that Fred Taylor is in New England. So I think you see that Maurice Jones-Drew, he, in my opinion, should be number 3 after Adrian Peterson and Michael Turner. Those are the consensus top 2 picks. I'd probably go D'Angelo Williams 4, Matt Forte 5, Frank Gore 6, and then I think you start to see the rest of the first round fill itself out. So if I'm looking at it right now, Matt Forte, in my mind, he's 5th. But I think you could throw 3, 4, and 5 in a bag, and whichever one you get, you're going to be really happy with.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So D'Angelo 3 could happen based on what he did last year.
Absolutely. Not only last year, but coming into this year as well. He's still going to share carries with Jonathan Stewart, but D'Angelo still has a lot of good outlook for him. Okay, so AP's number 1 this year. LT was number 1 last year. We saw him fall, far down to the 2nd round, Jamey. Why? Yeah, I think that's a little too far.
Is it?
The interesting thing about Latainian, as we know, going to be 31 this year, saw a real decline in production last year, dealing with the injuries last season with the toe problem. And as we know, they franchised Darren Sproles, so he's going to be a big part of the offense, taking carries away from Latainian. Tomlinson wasn't even guaranteed to be back with the Chargers this year, but he restructured his contract. I still think he has a lot of value left. So to see him fall to the 2nd round, again, I think that's a little too much. Probably starting around pick 9 to 12. And again, when you look at the end of the first round, when you have that one person, Eric Mack in this case, picking 12 and then 13. He could have taken Steven Jackson in round 2, could have taken Latainian at the end of round 1. So I think it's a little too far for him. So starting around pick 9 overall is where you think you start to see Latainian go. And depending on how much you like some of these, second-year running backs, guys like Steve Slayton and Chris Johnson, that's sort of where you see Latainian fall into.
And you mentioned Eric Mack, and before and after he chose LT, we saw 2 top wide receivers go. Is that what you would do? Do you like that strategy?
Yeah, it's not a bad way to go at all. It's not just 2 of the top. It's the 2 top receivers. Now, when you look at Larry Fitzgerald went at pick 11, and then Andre Johnson went at pick 13. These are the 2 top wide receivers coming into fantasy football this year. Obviously, 2 tremendous talents. They have great quarterbacks in play, Kurt Warner being the better of the 2, but Matt Schaub really took the next step in his development, which is why Andre Johnson, finally healthy again, is going to get back to being the number 2 guy. So you look at the way that these 2 players are going to start your team. It's a great strategy to employ when you're drafting a fantasy football team because, as you know, most leagues you're going to start 2 wide receivers. So you get the 2 best guys. You don't have to worry about a wide receiver then for the next 6, 7, maybe even 8 rounds. You can really stockpile good running backs because you're going to miss on some of the elite guys. And the owner we're talking about here in this case is Jeff Littman, one of our fantasy writers. He did a great job in getting good running backs. Redskins fan. He took Thomas Jones, Larry Johnson, and Marshawn Lynch in the reverse order. Lynch, Johnson, Jones. 3 very quality running backs. Not a number 1 guy, but 3 quality number 2 guys. When you have those 2 wide receivers with those 3 running backs, you're going to have a great start to your draft because you don't have to worry about a wide receiver except when they're on bye weeks. Hopefully those guys don't get injured. And as we know, Larry Fitzgerald on the cover of Madden, so it could be a little bit of a jinx there.
So we talked wide receiver, we talked running back. What about quarterback? When is it time to choose your first quarterback?
It's different from last year because last year we came into drafts and you were looking at Tom Brady in the first round. Peyton Manning's been somewhat of a first-round guy throughout the course of his career. Now we see Drew Brees ascend to the number 1 spot coming off a 5,000-yard season with New Orleans and all those weapons around him. I think you start to look quarterback in round 2 here, coming into this season. The first quarterback went to Dave Richard in the 2nd round, pick 16, as you can see there. Pick 18, I think it is. You look at the way that Brees is going to play. If you could get a stud running back and then the top quarterback or one of the top quarterbacks with Manning, with Brady, and then you start to look at some of the 2nd-tier quarterbacks, guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tony Romo start to creep into the mix there. But I think when you're talking about quarterbacks, round 2 is a safe spot for it. And the interesting guy is going to be Brady, as we know, because you're looking at coming off that knee injury, only played in a couple of plays to start the first game last year before getting hurt, and we'll start to see where he's going to fall. He's the wild card because it's somebody is going to take him after Drew Brees comes off the board. We'll see if it's Manning first or Brady second.
Hopefully he'll pick up right where he left off. Jamey, I want to ask you, it's big news in our office. Obviously, everyone's obsessed with this. How'd your team turn out?
I was pleased with my team. I had the first overall pick, so that's obviously a good way to start when you're looking at Adrian Peterson as the first player. And then I did a similar strategy to what Jeff did. I took the next 2 best wide receivers on the board. I took Marcus Colston and Greg Jennings in round 2 and round 3. So now I have my 2 receivers set. Don't have to worry about it. Then I come back with a questionable pick in LaRon McClain. Got my quarterback in Tony Romo, which I think is a steal in round 5. I did the combo pick of the Arizona Cardinals running backs with Tim Hightower and Chris Wells. Got my tight end. I know a guy that Lauren likes a lot is Chris Cooley, Donnie Avery, and then Jarius Norton. And the one player we don't see on this is probably my favorite pick of the draft, and that's Sean Green, running back for the New York Jets, rookie running back. I think he's going to have a lot of value this year. Getting him in round 11 is a steal.
I want to go back to that Colston and Jennings because are you sure they're the 2 best? There's some studs that you left up there, Jay.
Yeah, I did. I left Anquan Bolden. I left Roddy White, and I left Wes Welker. 3 guys. That's the one pick. Marcus Colston, I'm sold on him because, again, we're talking about Drew Brees as the best quarterback. But those other guys, I think that's where it's going to sort of fall into the mix. I look quarterback play. Love Aaron Rodgers this year, so I think if I get Aaron Rodgers, #1 guy, that's going to be the big thing. But I talked about the LaRon McClain pick. That's the questionable one because when we did the draft, LaRon McClain was coming off a tremendous season last year. But there's been some news. LaRon McClain going to be a fullback only this year.
Since you picked him.
Since I picked him.
Right.
So Lorenzo Neal is now in Oakland. That's going to really open things up for Darren McFadden. So I think McFadden's going to have a big year this year. LaRon McClain going to take a little bit of a step back. He'll still score touchdowns, but don't take him where I took him as your #2 running back. Just a little too high based on the news coming out of this past minicamp.
So overall, that's the one thing you'd kind of take back.
Yes, but again, get 2 stud rookie running backs in Chris Wells and Sean Green.
You're in good shape.
I'll be happy.
All right. Thanks, Jamey.
My
We're
pleasure.
obsessed just like you. We hope we helped for Jamey Eisenberg. I'm Lauren Shehadi. Thanks for watching.